Good morning. How are you? Well, it's hot here, except it's cooler when I'm underneath this canopy of trees, and by several degrees that you can notice. So that's nice. There are the usual suspects that we're concerned about these days. One, of course, is the Delta variant, which is uh, a great concern across the nation, and it seems to be attacking those who haven't been vaccinated. And so localities are thinking of insisting having mandatory rules about vaccination. This goes back to 1905 in a case that went to the Supreme Court, Jacobson, in which he was resisting smallpox vaccinations. And he took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said for public safety that these were permissible requirements. And so across the nation, we have a whole variety of mandatory vaccination rules, but there are exceptions to them. Some of them are religious. And what we have now is Republicans want to clamp down on these mandatory vaccinations, stop them, prevent them. So at a time when we realize that we can lose the gains that we've had by the vaccines that we had, and that we can only persist in success if people have the vaccination, Republicans are going state to state and trying to throw out these mandatory vaccination rules. So they want to be free, in my opinion, to hurt and damage themselves. But in the bargain, they hurt and damage us. So that there are going to be fights across the nation, no doubt about this question. And hopefully the vaccination supporters will prevail, because literally the nation's health is at risk because of this. It's hard to believe that in this time so advanced, we've been to the moon, we've done all these things, discovered that some of the most dangerous things are microscopic, and people know so little science and have so little ability to use logic to think critically about the value of a vaccine, that we're in this mess. So we can hope that the fights in court and elsewhere prevail, because we have to get this under control. Now, the second thing that I'm concerned about, if you listen to my podcast, is the hearing that we're going to have on Tuesday. And that's the hearing about the insurrection. And I'm concerned because the papers today, building upon the concerns I expressed in my podcast, are that, we may call some people to testify, like Jordan, like McCarthy, and more people in Congress who helped the rioters know where to go, gave them a tour of the Capitol before the insurrection happened. What about the people in the White House? What about the people in intelligence? So all of that's kind of floating out there. And it seems to me that the Democrats are exposed somewhat, because the witnesses that they're having on Tuesday are 2 Capitol Hill police officers and 2 DC police officers. And I don't for a minute mean to understate the legitimacy of what they've suffered as being worthy to consider in the entire insurrection. But this is the effect of the insurrection. The cause of the insurrection begins with the chief executive of the United States, supported by people in his employ and appointment, supported by people in his party, supported by outsiders, supported by rioters. Why are we starting at the tail end effect of what someone did wrong at the front end? Why don't we start with the origin of this and work forward? And I don't know that there's any reason why we have to talk to Capitol Hill police officers or DC police officers in a hearing when what they have to say is fully known and spread upon the record. It exposes, I think, the committee to one of the failures of politics generally, that are we prepared to do something to make a difference? Or are we just going through the motions. I'm afraid that it's going to be hard to make a telling point. Here's the victim. Okay, but what is the reason? When we talked about shootings and so forth, the question was less about what happened in the particular incident and more about the racism that caused it. So if we're going to talk here about the insurrection, we have to talk about the cancer on the nation. Those autocrats who felt they could throw over our government without regard for the Constitution or the laws. That's the issue. And it's not how do we defend against it again. It's how do we punish and reckon against those who caused it. So that's my thinking on that. A third thing that comes to mind are the infrastructure questions on the Hill. The Republicans never said they were going to pay for this thing. They have in various ways, but very clearly, said for their own constituency, and we could model our own behavior as Democrats and others on this. They told them, hey, you're not going to tax the rich. You're not going to take back the savings we gave all these people and income and so forth. So think about regressive taxes. Think about taxing diesel oil and gas. That's what you can do. Well, now the Democrats have got this $3.5 trillion program that when we started with 2.2 trillion, and I hate to say it, but if you choose a mark, stay on that mark. It's about your credibility. I think constantly changing the number, 2.2, 1.9, we're not going below that. We'll do a special program on 700 billion. Oh, forget that. Now we're going to do a $3.5 trillion program, and we're going to do the program with the Republicans. Public doesn't understand that, and from a bargaining standpoint, it doesn't make sense. And if the Democrats really can pass it, and they have Sinema and our boy from West Virginia, Manchin, on board, then do it. Don't talk about it. Just do it. And I don't see the advantage in it. I spent a lot of time on the Hill, so I do know how these things work. And I'm not against suspense, but it should go toward victory. It shouldn't be just a talking point on the evening news. So that's my morning analysis, and I continue to walk, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.